Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Great.
What's your name?
Donald Butch McIntosh,
What branch of service did you serve in?
United States Air Force,
What years?
1961, 1995.
Wow. When you joined the military, how old were you?
19.
19. Did they send you overseas?
Yes, several times.
Where did you go?
First tour was in Goose Bay, Labrador, which is up north. And I spent time in Germany, Spain, Japan, and Panama.
What do you remember most about your travels overseas? Do you recall anything that stands out in your mind?
I tried to learn the culture of everywhere I went. Come to find out, our culture is probably as good as anybody's. And the United States is probably the best country in the world.
When you left home, did you have a hard time adjusting, leaving home and maybe going to a foreign land and adjusting, or did it come natural?
Well, you know, I went to Haskell as a young man, 13 years old. And it was a boarding school, so you learned how to care for yourself. So it was a pretty easy transition from my life to the military life.
When you were overseas, did you meet other Indian people?
I met some of the Spaniards I met over in Spain were very close to our way of life. But the best ones was down in Panama. The Panama people were just almost like the Native American people. I got to go to a small community where they were having kind of a little yard sale. Even though we couldn't communicate, we could understand each other. And I was very impressed on how close their beliefs were and our beliefs were.
That's interesting. What language did they speak down there?
They always spoke their own language, and like I say, it was kind of hard to communicate, but we could, by certain ways, we could learn to tell each other what we was trying to say.
That's kind of neat that they're similar to us.
They were very similar to us in their beliefs and their ways and the way they conducted themselves. I was really impressed with the Panama people.
Did they have like native dances that they did by
Yes.
themselves? And
They had their own type of ceremonies, but it was very close, believe it or not. It was really close to our powwow type dancing and our ceremonies. Some of their ceremonies are very close to ours.
that's unbelievable, actually. If you could give advice to, let's say, high school people, high school seniors maybe, juniors, people that get ready to get out of school, what would you tell them?
You know, when I was a young man, when you turned 18 or you graduated from high school, you automatically went in the military. It was just kind of an unwritten law back in my time. But I would tell them even if they go ahead with their higher education, the military life is a great way of life. It's a great way of life. You meet so many different people, you make so many friendships, and you get to see so many places and see so many different cultures that I would encourage them to really take a hard look at the military life.
The subject that comes up today that we talk about at work and at lunch break and things, people have mentioned, and we've mentioned this before, how on the internet and on the sports channels, how athletes don't kneel for the national, or they kneel for the national anthem, and they sort of protest in a way. I mean, what's your thoughts about something like that?
I think you ought to stand and honor the flag and our country. There's different ways to do your protesting and different areas to do your protesting, but not at our flag when we're honoring our country.
I agree. Do you have any regrets or maybe any things that happened to you unexpectedly, maybe a happy time, or do you have anything to add?
Well, as a young man, you go in the military, you're kind of getting indoctrinated to the military way of life, and it took me a few years to understand that I was not only representing myself, I was representing all Native Americans, and especially the Muscogee Nation. And it took a few years, and when that finally set in, I had to be better than average. Everything I did, I tried to do better because that's the way they perceived you. So I wanted them to make sure that they perceived the Indian people as at least average or maybe better than average.
Would you like to add anything, and as in closing, anything you want to say something to your family or the younger generation or anything?
Our family, my dad was in World War I. Two of my brothers were in World War II. Two other brothers were in Korea. And I was in during Vietnam and Desert Storm. I didn't get in country in either one of them, but I was in the military during that time. So we are a very proud military family. And I would encourage anybody that don't have an idea of what they want to do in life to join the military. There's so many different areas that you can pursue that will help you when you do get out. It's a great way of life and a great way to see the world.
All right. Mr. McIntosh, thank you for your time and thank you for your service, and you have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.